Good afternoon and welcome to Coffee with a Kick. I am, of course, Xander, and that, of course, is Keegan. And we are back with this midweek now done and dusted. The first half of the... Wait, what is it? It's the first leg of the round of 16 Champions League plus 2 bonus Premier League matches that we got to cover. Picks were actually pretty good for the midweek. You went 4-2. I went 5-1. Thanks a lot there, Arsenal, being terrible. But we'll get to that in just a second. Anything that you want to hit before we go ahead and jump into Man City and Brentford?
Let's jump in it.
Then we'll go head first into Manchester City versus Brentford. This one, a 1-0 victory for Manchester City. Very important as far as the title race is concerned. But, you know, Haaland performed better in this match, still up to his full potential. And his second goal there was just, Kyle Walker was just so barely offsides. Otherwise, it was very well worked. I really did feel De Bruyne missing out there in this one, though. I think that they kind of got complacent after getting him back, that they didn't kick it into the Sans De Bruyne mode that they had worked with in the, since the first match of the season until recently.
Yeah, another weird one, had a lot of possession, a lot of goals, but not a lot of production. But no. As you said, got the win. That's all that matters, but not quite the 6-1 drubbing I was hoping, but close.
My 3-0 was looking good until they called Kyle Walker offsides on that one. Otherwise, that was going to be going good. Yeah, Man City was never really threatened. Brentford had a couple of breakaways, but even then, they didn't perform well on them. It was a pretty dull match overall, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what happened with Man City. They kept pace with Liverpool. And then Liverpool has a match coming up here in just a second. But before we get to that, we'll go ahead and do the 2 Champions League matches from Tuesday, which were Inter Milan hosting Atletico Madrid. And then there in Eindhoven, PSV hosted Borussia Dortmund. I got both of these exactly correct. I said that PSV would win 1-0 and PSV and Dortmund would draw 1-1. You thought that Dortmund would pull it out in the end, which they did not. So, these were... I was watching the simulcast for these two. So I ended up seeing a lot more of the... Actually, this was a little bit more balanced. Inter looked really good in this one, I thought, over Atletico Madrid. And PSV and Dortmund felt pretty even for the most part. There was a little bit of lacking venom there on the Dortmund side that I didn't feel pushed through as well as they may have otherwise.
Yeah, I thought Inter Milan was probably going to pull away there at the end. I mean, I feel like they played better than Atletico Madrid, but after Arnautovic scored, I thought they were going to get another, but they didn't. They got a crucial 1-0 victory. Dortmund, very disappointing. Yeah. I thought they played better, but, if you can't capitalize on your goals, on your shots, then you're not going to win. So that reverse fixture will be interesting because I think PSV will have some momentum, per se.
Yeah, for sure. They will feel good about that 1 point. Now, if you steal one at Dortmund, then you're through to the quarters. And his PSV has been that far, probably in the distant past. Let's see, they've got 2 stars. That's just for, with the star mechanism, I can never know if it's the...
PSV, I think, has won it twice back in the 70s. I think them and Ajax were the 2 teams that won it a few times.
I think Eindhoven has won it once, is what I'm showing here. So I don't know what that second star is about, but I do see that they had won it one time, at the very least. Not
a consolation.
Whatever. They are doing well for themselves right now there in PSV Eindhoven, but neither of those matches were particularly interesting. Really, the Champions League matches were not great this midweek. Not very enthralling.
Not exciting.
Yeah.
Not exciting.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say they were tactical. They just felt they were a little flat, to be honest. They were both pretty flat games. That brings us then to the other Champions League midweek. The other Premier League midweek, which was Liverpool taking on Luton. It jumped me back to the wrong match day there. But Liverpool taking on Luton. Where is those match stats? Which
I'll tell you what.
They did end up pulling out, Liverpool.
Yeah, at halftime, my pick was looking pretty good.
It was.
Luton was playing well in the first half. And then, they just came out thinking they could park the bus against Liverpool.
Yeah.
And you cannot, just like we've said about City, you can't park the bus against these teams. You got to continue to go after them, keep the flow of the game. And yeah, that was pretty embarrassing there at the second half. Liverpool just drubbed them, as probably was expected, but it was a tale of two halves, though. I feel like Luton was the better side in the first half. Just tempo of the game, making sure they got what they wanted.
They were more successful, I would say. I don't know if they're necessarily better, but they were definitely playing to the game that they wanted to play in the first half, and they went in 1-0. Then Liverpool came out in the second half, and I also got this one exactly right. I said it would be 4-1 to Liverpool. Did I think it would take that long for the first goal to arrive for Liverpool? I did not, obviously. But in that 3-minute span there between the first Virgil van Dijk's header on the corner and Gakpo's header on another corner, I believe it was. It was either that or the Luis Diaz that was another set piece. But once those 3 minutes had passed, you're like, okay, this is over. Liverpool will probably get in another one, or it ended up being two. And Luton had no attack in the second half. They had some breakaways a little bit, but as far as serious attempts, they had nothing going on in the second half at all. It was all Liverpool, and the second half definitely looked like a top of the table team against Luton. But you did have me scared there for a minute that Luton was going to pull this one out. 'Twas not to be so, though.
They should have.
They should have. They pulled out the first half, and they just, as expected, they couldn't keep up the whole match. I didn't think that they had it, and they didn't. Then to the other half of the Champions League fixtures, we had FC Porto taking out Arsenal 1-0, and Napoli and Barcelona drawing 1-1, which you had exactly correct. You said it would be a 1-1 Barcelona-Napoli draw. That did end up being the case. We both got the Arsenal and Porto one wrong because we thought Arsenal would, be good. They weren't. Porto really controlled this match. They held home court to the fullest of advantages here.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to end in a draw, obviously. And then the 90+4 Galeno with the outside of the box goal. I mean, really from nowhere.
Truly, it was just a one of those random pot shots you'll take because you have the space. I mean, I get it. I would take it for sure. And, the commentators were saying that it was on the goalkeeper. I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like a pretty good shot to me. Maybe he could have reacted a little bit better. But still, that was a nice curling outside shot that is going to go in most of the time if you get it that clean.
Yeah, I mean, it was a deserved goal. I felt like Porto played well enough to get a goal. Arsenal didn't even get a shot on target. It kind of felt like they didn't even want to be there. So, I think it was pretty good. I think Porto has a shot in the reverse fixture.
Definitely.
For sure.
Well, yeah, definitely if Arsenal plays like they did in this one. This was not the Arsenal team that we've seen in the Premier League the past couple weeks, obviously. Scoring, I think it was 21 goals in the last 5 matches. So, where they were on this match day, I don't know. I mean, Portugal's a pretty nice place to be. So, I don't know that that's going to make that much of a difference. Then to the Napoli and Barcelona one. This was the one that had the most energy, I felt like, of the weekend. This one was a little bit more even keel, I felt like. Still, I think Barcelona's going to feel bad about not getting the full 3. They were marginally the better side, I felt like. But Napoli, they responded well after Lewandowski's 60th minute goal in the in the 75th with Osimhen. And then they kind of, smothered the game after that. They were like, let's take the point and go.
Yeah, a lot of possession from Napoli. Not a ton of purposeful possession, but they scored their only shot on target. So score them when it counts. And yeah, I think maybe in the first set of round of 16, there's a couple that are already kind of, it's done and dusted. This side, any team, any of these 8 could go through. There's no margin between them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting when we come back in 3 weeks for this other set. We'll get in 2 weeks. We'll have the reverse fixture for the other 4 round of 16s. Which we'll see how that goes. Yeah, the Real Leipzig one is still up in the air. Bayern Lazio is still up in the air. PSG Real Sociedad, I feel like that one will be fine for PSG. We'll see. It'll depend on Mbappe again. And then I think City's fine against Copenhagen. I don't think that Copenhagen's going to come in and win.
We'll see.
By 2 goals at the Etihad. I'm pretty sure that one's a little bit safe. But we'll get to that when we get to it, okay? And in the meantime, though, we better get to our Premier League picks for this week. Just looking through the list here real quick. Let's see. Do I got any big juicy ones? I didn't really see anything that jumped off the screen initially. Let me take a second gander and see how I feel. Maybe Arsenal Newcastle. Newcastle's playing a little bit better recently. But that's really the only one that's really tickling my interest here. But we'll go ahead and jump into it with the first of the 10 a.m. matches. Aston Villa hosting Nottingham Forest up at Villa Park in Birmingham. How do you think this one will shake out?
I don't think this is the type of match that Nottingham wants to be playing to get back into form. I mean, they played decent the last couple of match weeks, but Aston Villa at home this season, they're still solid.
Yeah.
I don't think just because of their skid, they're going to end that against a team like Nottingham. I'm going to go 3-1. I think Nottingham gets one, but I think Aston Villa ultimately smothers the game, gets a couple, finishes it off late to get that 3-1. But yeah, hard to pick Nottingham in this one.
Yeah, it really is. I've got it as a 2-0 victory for Aston Villa. I think they're going to focus on their defense here, try to get that reorganized. They've had a very good and solid defense at home this season. Yep. And I feel like they try to get everything put back together against a team that you can do that against. You can get organized against Nottingham Forest and really shut them down. So I think this one's going to be a 2-0 victory for Aston Villa. But yeah, I don't give... I mean, everybody's got a puncher's chance at it, but Nottingham Forest I don't think is in the form or in the tier of Aston Villa for this one. Yeah, I mean, you just... The slide will continue for Nottingham Forest. I mean, they have to figure something out here shortly, or else they're going to actually start being in contention for possible relegation. I mean, they're slipping their way down there, with Everton and Luton only 4 points back at this point. So that's, of course, they do have a game in hand on. No, Luton actually still has the game to make up, I think. Regardless, we'll move on to the next one, which is Brighton Hove Albion hosting Everton at the Amex. I think that Brighton, went crazy on the last one on a relegation side. Sheffield United went 5-0. I don't think it'll quite be 5-0, but I do think they carry through some of that energy. I think this one's more along the lines of what you were saying for Villa and Nottingham. I think this is a classic early season 3-1 victory for Brighton Hove Albion there at the Amex to keep their upward pressure going. I mean, they're up in 7th place at this point, pretty respectable. In the last, after their mid-season dirge there, where they went winless in, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They went winless in 6 between match week 7 and the next one on 13. So after that, they've been more even keel-ish, But they've definitely picked it up here in recent weeks.
Yeah, I see this as a 1-1 draw.
Really?
I think Everton gets a point out of it. I think they need a point.
Brighton
has been so sporadic and volatile. I think it's a 1-1. I think Everton has the gall to get one.
I mean, they do need it. This will be Everton needs a point much more than Brighton really needs 3 points at this time, because Everton is fighting off Luton, trying to keep up in that 17th spot. They've got them on goal difference only at this point. So we'll see. We'll see if they can manage it. I'm not confident, obviously, because I said that they would lose. Then to another one involving a relegation side and another team that is. This is probably actually the most important match on the table this week, I would say, for both teams. Crystal Palace hosts Burnley at Selhurst Park. Burnley at 13 points, so they really need something out of it. Crystal Palace has been falling. They're down at 25 points, so not in the clear yet at all. Do you think either team gets 3 points out of this one?
Both of these teams don't play well often. So
tell us what you really think here.
Yeah, Crystal Palace obviously depleted. Burnley not as depleted, but not a great team.
Right.
I'm going to go 1-1 here as well. It feels like a match that I just don't know what to say, so I'm just going to go 1-1 as just default.
Well, I concur with the 1-1 at least. I think Crystal Palace has shown. I mean, they are depleted up front, and I think that it continues to show in this one. I mean, they haven't scored more than one goal back since in the past 3 weeks when they last time they did that, they beat Sheffield United 3-2. So, you could always take a Sheffield United goal scoring party with a grain of salt. So I think that this is also 1-1. I think Burnley gets one just out of sheer determination. I mean, sheer out of possession, essentially. Like, they possess it so much that I think they end up accidentally squeezing one in somehow. That doesn't help them a ton as far as table is concerned. They really need the 3. This is one of their best opportunities here in the next couple of weeks to get it, but I don't think they get the full 3. Which then takes us to Manchester United hosting Fulham at Old Trafford. And what am I smelling here? I'm smelling trap game for Manchester United. You hear that, Flynn? Trap game. Fulham's going to take it 2-0, actually. Going to shut down the Rasmus Højlund fella. He will not get another goal. I think that would break his current 6-game streak of goals, I think is where he is. I could be conflating that with what Richarlison was on recently. But I think that Fulham pulls it out here and takes it to Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Wow. Yeah, this one I had as a 2-2 draw. I think it could be a trap game. I don't think Man U loses, but I do think that they're going to be frustrated not getting the full 3. Mm-hmm. I think Fulham goes up early, and then United equalizes. Fulham gets another one, and I think Scott McTominay scores a late equalizer to get a point.
Super
just
sub
because that's all
Scott.
He does.
Super sub Scott McTominay coming in with the header goal there in like the 85th minute to salvage a point at Old Trafford. That seems about right. That'd be an exciting match. I'm down for it. Anything that's good, I'm down for, Which brings us to one that I don't think will be a very good match. It'll be Bournemouth hosting Manchester City at Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth. I think City is going to win. The question is, will they play well? And I think that they were just sitting De Bruyne for the midweek, right? He isn't injured or anything. I didn't see him on the injury report. He was just getting some rest, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like just some rest over. I mean, he had played 3 straight games. So I think it was just rest, midweek, short game. So
yeah, and not a top table opponent. So you felt pretty confident with that. I mean, they barely squeezed by, as we said. But I think they get by here a little bit better. 3-1 I've got for Bournemouth. I think that Bournemouth does get a cheap one because City has shown that they are susceptible to that this season. Just a cheap breakaway at some point when they aren't paying attention. And but I think they keep the pressure on the top of the table. This title race is toy up there at the top. Toy like a toy guy. And that would put them, they'll be back 1 point behind Liverpool for first.
Yeah, Bournemouth is always they're always a team that we beat by a lot. And I think that I've been saying 6-1 the past 2. I think it's 3-0. I think we beat them 3-0. Comfortable victory. Not anything too crazy, but Bournemouth, they just don't have the stuff to be. It's like Liverpool. Yeah. It's going to take Man City beating Liverpool to make them drop points at this point. So these lower level teams are just trying not to get beat too bad. The goal difference kills them.
Yeah. Bournemouth, I don't think they've got anything for it. Now, the last one from Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time is Arsenal hosting Newcastle. Arsenal hosting Newcastle at Emirates Stadium, bro. I don't know why I went surfer there, but I did. Do you think Newcastle shows any of that early season fire that they had? Or do you think Arsenal continues to roll here for their, is that going to be 6 straight? This would be their 6th straight win if in the Premier League, obviously, because they just lost in the Champions League.
I'm going to go a 1-1 draw in this one. I think Newcastle wants to kind of show that they're getting healthier. They're getting back into it. And Arsenal, losing to Porto is going to have some psychological effect on them. After the run they've had to then lose 1-0 and not even get a shot on target, I don't think they bounce back from that and beat Newcastle by a lot. So I think 1-1, Arsenal drop points. Pretty big game to drop points.
Yeah.
But I think Newcastle has it in them to at least get a point out of it.
I think this one, I called it out as probably the best match that we're looking at this weekend. I think it lives up to the billing. You're right that I don't think that they beat Newcastle by a lot, but I do think they beat Newcastle. I think this is a 3-2 very fun match with it being 2-2 for the majority of the second half, a really tense last 30 minutes where both teams are kind of playing that cat and mouse, not quite cat and mouse, but cat and cat game where they're both trying to get the full 3 because Newcastle wants to move on. The Champions League isn't totally out of the realm of contention for them. Maybe. It'd take a lot for them to get back up there. But Tottenham, they've been shaky of late. But I think that Arsenal does pull it out. I think they've got the quality to do that. I think now that they're not totally out of the Champions League at this point, but I think that loss would help them focus in on the Premier League all the more and try to really keep pace with City and Liverpool up at the top of the table. Because if they any points that they give up is huge because then it puts so much pressure on the remaining fixtures they have against City and Liverpool. And I'd rather get the points against lesser sides than have to depend on it against the better ones. It's a good strategy is what I've heard, is beat the teams you're supposed to beat. I've heard someone say that before. Then we go to Sunday, a solo Sunday match. My Wolves get Sheffield United. Nice cool down, 8:30 on Sunday at Molineux Stadium. Sheffield United and my Wolves. I'm going to I used the wrong term in one of our previous posts. Had actualizing. The term is manifesting. That's the TikTok trend. Manifesting. I'm going to manifest a 3-0 victory for my Wolves here against Sheffield United. I think that Sheffield United has showed their belly at this point. I think that they aren't going to be much of anything for the rest of the season aside from a points factory for the opposing side. And I think my Wolves take advantage of it. Our offense has been working well, except for that weird blank blanking against Brentford and Brighton. We've been scoring with regularity, and Sheffield United gives up the goals. Just look at Brighton last week.
Yeah, you say 3-0, I say 4-0. I think Wolves take it pretty easily. I think Neto gets a couple of goals in this one. Sheffield, I think, is starting to inch up there, but it's going to take them beating the teams around them to maybe escape relegation. Wolves are playing too well right now. I don't see them losing.
I certainly hope so. I don't want to be the one to give Sheffield points. Listen. You know my preseason predictions. I expected my Wolves to get relegated, so I'm living high on the hog right now with us up at 11th. We'll see how I modulate my perception of the team going into next season, but we've got a long time till then. So let's go ahead and wrap up this week with our Monday West Ham versus Brentford at 3:00 at London Stadium. Boy.
This is probably the worst Monday game I think that anyone could pick right now.
Yeah.
I want to say West Ham could win, but then they've been playing so badly. And I want to say Brentford could win, but they're also not. They've been playing better, but they're not a great side. Mm-hmm. Simply because West Ham has been playing so bad, I'm going to give Brentford the win 2-0.
2-0. All right.
I think Brentford takes it.
I at least gave West Ham a goal. I mean, Brentford's not an iron wall by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think West Ham's playing very well right now. How they're still up in ninth is baffling to me. But of course, I did miss 10 picks in a row for them. So obviously it's baffling for me because I keep getting their picks wrong. They'll probably win this one like 4-1 or something just to spite us, just to spite us. And I'll be so appreciative of them putting me back on the losing streak for them. But that brings us to the end of our picks for the week that will be match day 26. Before we go, we do have the trivia question to get to. Oh boy, I cannot recall it. It was something. Which team had the lowest point total for a season in Premier League history? That was what it was.
Yeah, it was.
And it wasn't very recent, and it's already less than what Sheffield and Everton have now. So it's fewer than 13 points over the course of a season.
Yep.
And boy, I do not have a good guess here. I'm going to say Sheffield Wednesday. Have they ever been in the Premier League? That's my question.
You would be wrong.
Oh, no.
You have to go back to the 2007-2008 season.
QPR.
The team that had 11 points in the entire season.
Wow.
11 points was Derby County.
Derby County.
I don't think that they won a single game in the campaign.
That is 11 points out of 38 matches. Sorry. Hold on. What? Yes, 38 matches. I'm not crazy. Is tough. That's tough. I mean, obviously it's
They won one match in September of that season.
Whoa.
So I think day 6 they won and did not win again the rest of the year.
Boy, they lost early. They won their one match. Boy, how much hope do you think you would have had back there in September? Like, yeah, no, we got our way. We're going to stay up, and then nothing. You go, possibly winless in 20 matches in a row? Ooh. And we haven't seen hide nor hair of them since in the Premier League, I don't think.
We have not.
I wonder if they'll ever be back up. I'm not going to pull up the championship standings right now. I don't want to have to try to do that, but now I'm trying to. No, I won't. Derby County is not going to be promoted this season. I think. Leicester's coming back, I believe, is what it looks like right now, right?
All 3 teams that were relegated last year are the top 3 in the championship.
So
we could see all 3 of those teams back.
So we could see. I've got it. It was Leeds, Leicester,
and Southampton.
That was the last one. Hey, that means I don't have to make up another graphic for us for next year. I could just use all those. I could just swap back in the graphics from last year. Cool. Yep. Cool. Well, there you go. Derby County, 11 points over the course of a season. Fewest ever scored by any team. And hopefully no team ever scores that few again, because that is sad. That's sad. It makes me feel bad for them. But until next time, when we're back on the opposite side of this weekend on, we'll say Tuesday. That'll be probably when I do it. Why don't you go ahead and grab some coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Salamat.